Chapter 2. Part 4. Preparing the house for his departure was not an easy task. He invested a large part of the day and his guests helped him. They didn't have dinner until late at night. This time Vanus prepared some game meat with roasted silka roots, again a delight. It was no wonder that silka roots were one of the most widely used foods on the continent of Eut, complementing very well with any other ingredient. The young Anthera, totally exhausted, was the first to go to bed. The night was so good that the rest decided to go out on the porch to watch the stars shining in a cloudless sky. Agnoruk readied his old sword, Arian remembering the times when the half-orc cleaned the edge when the guard began, always first. Kush read and wrote things down in his book. Arian fiddled with his brother's blue jewel. When he touched it, it sparkled lightly with a light blue light. Vanus called Kush. He needed his help to store some food in the saddlebags for the trip. Arian and Agnoruk were left alone. As the Baron shone high, the priestess noticed how Agnoruk observed the star. It was also typical of the half-orc when he stood guard, but he had never spoken to her about it. Temporarily, Agnoruk came out of his thoughts astonished. No one had ever told him that name without him mentioning it first, quite a surprise. Yes, how do you know that name? Loaf showed me this. It is also seen from Caesarea, especially on spring and summer nights. It shines brighter. It is the main one of the 3 stars. In Caesarea we call them the summer triangle. When they are most seen is in that season. The half-orc stopped cleaning the sword. It is true, there were 2 other stars that shone a little less than the star of the upper vertical. The 2 formed an equilateral triangle with Baron, but his father never told him anything about the constellation. What do you know about the legend of Baron? Arian smiled, stopped playing with the jewel. Loaf said that he was such a great warrior that the gods took him to fight alongside them and offered him to stay to be a god, but Baron rejected the offer. The hero returned to Shanaris to live as a mortal. He asked only one thing of the gods, to die against a worthy rival. A beautiful legend. Agnoruk whispered. Maybe it wasn't a legend, maybe it's a prophecy. The half-orc was silent. He was thinking of saying something, but he remained silent. Kush would return to sit down next to them again. It's a good night today, really. I didn't expect the temperatures in Eut to be so pleasant, commented the magician as he lit his pipe. Winters are usually long and harsh, but spring and summer are usually very mild, although now I find that time passes faster. Agnoruk added. Tonight reminds me of the days on the way to Thame. Only Gosberg is missing telling some of its crazy stories. Arian spoke with a smile on his face. Agnoruk smiled as he remembered those days, walking unhurriedly, safely in the sun, and at night the stars protecting a firelit camp from a simple bonfire while a drunken Denker told a story of robbery and deception of ruthless trolls. Good times without a doubt. The half-orc was also smiling. You know, we returned to the waterfall of 1,000 colors, although it was not the same. Agnoruk closed his eyes for a moment to visualize the memory more vividly. It is beautiful without a doubt, but seeing it just at dawn gives it a special charm. Arian didn't answer. Vanus appeared to indicate to the priestess that tomorrow they would get up early, so it was necessary to go to sleep. The priestess did not argue with the Kendeli. She said goodbye to the mage and the half-orc to retreat inside the hut. The 2 of them were left alone in silence. They would sleep on the floor of the cabin. Arian missed you. You know, your departure was a surprise to everyone. Kush had always gotten along well with the half-orc and needed to clarify the reasons for his absence from the company. It was necessary to leave. Staying would complicate things. I understand this perfectly, Agnoruk. Only that after what happened in Tripulia, separating the group in such an abrupt way was something that disappointed us all. Gosberg, Serbu, and Vanus left because they wanted to. I didn't force them. The half-orc defended himself. And everyone ended up coming back except you. The magician didn't think he would give up so easily. Agnoruk remained silent. The magician then continued with his speech. You had our door open, Gosberg came back, but you preferred to stay here isolated from the world when you have incredible talent. I don't think it was because of something random. Why are you secluding yourself here? The magician is always so observant and intelligent. Agnoruk put down his sword against the wall and stood up. I don't think I'm good for Shanaris. Kush was surprised at this revelation. He did not fully understand the half-orc's words. Don't be any good. I have the impression that if I express my full potential, many people will suffer. The mage imagined Agnoruk's suffering. He was the only mortal who had ever wounded a soul eater. It was evident that he was not a mere half-orc. Agnoruk knew this too, but controlling that power involved many risks. Arian has always trusted you. The magician reassured him. Arian is Shannari's hope. Yes, but she can't do it alone. She needs you. Agnoruk shook his head. He was not convinced. He rejected that responsibility. Agnoruk, I ask of you only to protect Arian. She doesn't know it or says she is not afraid, but since removing the curse on Turkheimak she has stepped forward. According to her words, Shanaris is moving into a new era. An era of light and peace. That implies many changes and enemies that will go after her. Kush spoke in a very serious tone. For him Arian's life was extremely important. What do you mean? You remember the Dardra of the Temple of Elaban? Yes, of course, the Elven and Orc clans who refused to fight since they considered themselves brothers. And it is said that they escaped to the realms of the deep. That's right. Have you discovered anything else? Kush knew that Agnoruk had traveled a great deal throughout Shanaris in these years. Surely he would have obtained new information about the Dadara. Not much, the Kendalis don't mention them, but the Amazons say they were the only ones who didn't fight in the Orcish wars. In return for helping the Dada escape, the elves wanted to exterminate them all. Kush wrote down what Agnoruk told him in his book. When he finished, he showed a page of his book to the half-orc, who did not understand much of what was written there, since Kush used his native language in the book. Interesting, that fits me. According to the Amazons, the Dardra were not persecuted by the Orcs when they decided not to participate in the war. They accepted their decision. However, the elves came after them to exterminate them completely. They did not succeed. They were defeated by an alliance of Amazons, Kendalis and Denkis, while the Dardra fled to the depths of Shanaris. What's the point of that? Agnoruk's ramblings led him to a dead end. Kush shrugged, closing the book. Having explained his motives, he continued with the speech to convince Agnoruk. That's why you must protect Arian. Perhaps the protectors of Shanaris, the children of the gods, are not now what they say they are. What you say is crazy. I hope so. They both remained silent for a while longer and finally decided to go to sleep. Agnoruk did not sleep in the cabin. He decided to sleep next to the large oak tree where the tombstones of his parents, the blind dwarf, Emelian, and Cerberus' mother were. The two-headed dog slept next to the half-orc. He would stay as always, taking care of the house and waiting for his return, him or his cubs. Arian was in danger, although she did not consider it so. Protecting Elaban's chosen one and also her friend was something for which Agnoruk decided to come out of retirement, although this implied fighting against the fear he had of not being able to assume the full power of being the son of the goddess of death, Thanae. At dawn they got up. The half-orc finished the tasks of preparing the hut for his absence. Arian knew very well that Agnoruk was careful to have everything ready in case he had to leave home unexpectedly, so it only took them a day to work. Once the house was prepared to Agnoruk's liking, it was time to leave. The whole group got on their chairs, except Agnoruk, who had to say goodbye to his dog with two heads. You can come with us if you want, Agnoruk. No, Cerberus is like his mother, he belongs to these mountains. He knows how to take good care of himself. In reality he is half a wolf. Sooner or later we will meet again in this house. The half-orc kissed the two heads of the huge dog that were moaning pitifully. Garak Uta Mara sake. The two-headed dog ran away, disappearing into the trees of the forest. Then the half-orc knelt before the oak stones, rested his hand on the ground, and closed his eyes. Arian came mounted on the mule until she reached the height of the half-orc. She had never seen him so sensitive, although of course this place was his home. "Do you miss them?" "Only Cerberus' mother, Daora, and my mother are buried here. My father's tombstone and Emelian are only testimonials. They didn't die here." They remained silent. Everyone accepted that their world was so hard, and that is why they had in their memory many fallen companions and rivals far from home. To finish, he picked up his worn backpack. It was the same one that more than 3 decades ago he always used on his adventures. All that remained was to fasten the sword to his back. With some clumsiness he mounted the tame mare. He looked at his house one last time, spurred on his mount and trotted out of the place, the rest of the group riding behind him.